Please introduce yourself for 3 minutes.
All right, so for starters, my name is Patrick. I am from the States, and I study I'm a third year student in the Business Administration Department at NCCU, National Junior University. I would consider myself as a very multi-diverse or cultured person. I lived and studied in South Africa, America, and here in Taiwan as well. I would also consider myself a very detail-oriented person. I have a hobby of doing model kit building, like model ships and model figures, stuff like that. And I have to pay a lot of attention to detail for those kind of works. And then I would also say that I'm a very social person. Being from different cultures, I understand how different people interact with each other, and that actually has helped me to interact with different people and communicate more effectively. I would consider also that myself as a very wide, open-minded person regarding to my multicultural diversity. Now, I would say that my field of interest would be in human resource management, specifically in recruitment, like recruitment agencies. And I did a lot of internships in South Africa, for example, in Winbond, and I was the human resource management assistant for about roughly a year to 2 years. And also that experience taught me a lot about how to interact with employees, how to deal with conflict management, and effectively communication with the other levels of management and different departments as well. I also interned at NASA, where I was a project team leader, and it taught me to effectively solve problems and morale boosting management, as well with the team members to effectively complete tasks. And I also entered into many business competitions as well, such as the Holt Prize, the ATCC and HSBC, and all of them I was also the team leader, and this taught me how to take a team and motivate them, come and brainstorm an idea and come up with effective answers that actually help solve problems and solutions. And I would say these are my fields of expertise.
Oh, interesting. So you'd like to briefly ask you to elaborate more on your personal experience. So since you said you have internship in NASA as project leader, and you also being a case study competitions leader, what's the differences between this, and have you ever experienced the challenges during the competition and also as being a project lead?
Right, correct. There's definitely a lot of challenges that we face, and these two are very different fields. One's a business related, one is a engineering. Now let's start also with NASA. With NASA, a lot of stuff is paying attention to details. Like every variable is important. So a lot of the time that the problems comes down to communication. Sometimes that the other teams don't give us the correct information or incomplete information. And this is very important for us, that it can be a critical mistake. A number that is off by 0.0.1 can lead to an explosion in the rockets, right? And if there's astronauts on there, they're gone. That's done. And that is something that we really pay attention to, is that there's a lot of things that you got to double check, triple check, quadruple check, and it's got to be accurate to the decimal, basically. And one of the biggest problems we faced was obviously misinformation, and then the information was incomplete. We couldn't recalculate it properly, and the numbers came out wrong. It was a simulation, but it was still wrong, and if it was real life, then it would have been a big mistake. Now, what happened is we revised it with the team to form up a communication system where we have a linked server database, and all this information is basically accessible from both parties. If they type something in, I can see it. But the thing is not a bit different from Google Docs, because it's more like confidential data. So we have to open like different databases and link them together. Now, according with the case study competitions, another big problem is miscommunication in terms of point of view perspective, because everybody would have a common goal, which is to win the competition together, solving the problem together. But everybody has their own opinion. And when they have their own opinion, they go with it from their perspective. They're less likely to think of what other people might want to say, or when they do, a lot of the time they just think about how they in their plan can be better than the other person's plan. And that is a big problem. So a lot of times as a case study team leader, I had to do a lot of conflict management. And with conflict management, I feel like it is very important for them to find a common ground. Because when they have a common ground and they can actually see the common ground, then they can see that there's no point on fighting because you're just hurting yourself and shooting yourself in the foot. So that is a thing that happened with my ATCC specifically, and that a lot of the times people come from different perspectives. And we might have to review all the possible options and then come out with the more refined one. It could be a combination of all of them, it could be a component of one and the entirety main idea of the others. And these are the main challenges that we were facing in NASA and ATCC. Now the difference in these two is that I feel the communication level is a bit different. One would be about accurate information, and the other one would be clarifying what you're saying. Because if I tell you something, and I may be a bit more aggressive, then you'll find that I'm attacking you. But maybe I'm not trying to do that. And then now, that would be something that happens in ATCC. But for me in NASA, it will be of like, I tell you something, and I tell you the pi is 3.14, but I stop there. But there's more to pi, the number pi, and if we were calculating something, we would need maybe the last 100 decimals. So that is something we would call accurate and inaccurate information. And that is what the difference is between my experiences in NASA and ATCC and business communications, basically.
So Patrick, that was very, very well articulated. I really loved it. So I can see that you want to apply for the position with Michael Page as with a position in human resources.
Right.
So I want to know your view on human resources. What do you think about it? Because in business, well, no, actually, in society, there are so many people thinking that human resources are too unprofessional to be a function. What do you think?
Well, personally, I'll just tell you what I think about human resources overall. I think like a lot of people, when they talk about human resource management, they think about just recruitment, period. That's what they think about most of the time. Personally, after taking classes and from my insight with internships, I know that human resources is an entire function, and they're more than just recruitment. Now, I can separate them into external and internal. External is obviously what we call recruitment, you know, outsourcing, recruitment from outside, stuff like that. Internal, there's also recruitment, internal recruitment. But at the same time, there's more to human resources in my mind is that they are the ones that find the person that is more fittable, like, or more suitable for the job. In the terms that there's a certain level of personal job fit, personal organizational fit. And that is very important because they gotta think about culture. They gotta think about the tasks and their capabilities. But at the same time, they gotta also maintain the current employees, such as, you know, for example, morale boosting. If the morale is low, you gotta find a way, you know, to help them. Or maybe, for example, if you can see that someone is having a hard time, as a human resource manager, you might have to, you know, review whether they need to take some responsibilities off of them, or, you know, and just give them more to give them a more sense of, you know, achievement. And then at the same time, you got to handle conflict management. So in my opinion, human resource management is a bit like sustaining the company in its employees. At the same time, you got to be actively looking for new ones that might replace your current ones if something was to happen.
Great. So now I want to know something more specific.
Right.
Because you see, just like I said, you divide human resources into two parts, right? As internal and external. But what exactly in function human resources do you want to do? Like in human resources, of course, there are recruiting and as well as salary structuring or maybe career development with training. So what exactly function human resources do you want to do?
So, like I said in my introduction, my field of interest would be in recruitment agencies specifically, like Michael Page is a headhunting. So that would be purely recruitment.
So what's the incentive for that function?
Well, the reason why I really want to enter into this field is that, one, I really like interacting with people. Like, I feel like as a recruitment process, I can interact with people, but another hobby of mine is observing people. I was the interviewer for the business administration camp 2 years in a row, this year and last year. And throughout this process, I was able to observe the high schoolers that come. I can hear their tone and judge what they're trying to tell me. And I could also at the same time try to get information out of them in a specific way without being direct. And this is something that I find is very interesting, or very, like, something that I would consider very fun to do. And this is the reason why I feel like recruitment agencies would be really good for me as an experience, is that it focuses on the recruitment process. But now obviously the recruitment process is not just, a single action such as recruitment, it's the entire process. And therefore, I would say that it is very important for me to learn all aspects of it. So that is the main reason why I really want to enter into this sort of field, basically.
Okay, got it. That was still very well structured. So before we ended the interview, I still have one final question.
Right?
Is that, in your opinion, as a recruitment manager, what would be the most question
The
in
most,
interview? The most important question in interview?
the
And
most
why?
important question.
Yeah, most important question.
I feel that the most important question for me, personally, when I ask anyone, is if you were in a team, what can you bring to the table to that team? And what can you do? And I would ask them to provide a situation. Because personally, I can actually see where they sit themselves or position themselves within a team, which is basically like where they sit themselves in a company. And at the same time, by asking them how they would bring anything to the table, or what can they bring to the table, and how would they solve certain situations, will show maybe an in-depth of what they really know about this thing, or the field basically. And that, I feel, is very important as a general knowledge basic of what they want and where their position is, on knowing what they're trying to do and what they're trying to get to.
Good. Do you have any good questions?
For now, no. Well, thank you for being here today, and thank you.
All right, thank you very much.